Industry advocates say hemp could be the answer to Victoria's building material shortages and give native timber processors a future when their industry shuts down at the end of the year. The hemp industry will be debated today in Victoria's Parliament, and ahead of that debate, Legalise Cannabis MP Rachel Payne told Fiona Broom industrial hemp is an opportunity for Victoria.
It's such an ancient industry, and what we're talking about here is nothing new, but a re-emerging of an industry that has often been discriminated against or has stigma around it because of the connotations around cannabis. And I think if we sort of step back and look at the fact that hemp has been used in textiles, for food, opportunities for bioplastics and construction materials, and what we're looking at is some of the barriers of an expanding hemp industry in Victoria, but also the opportunities. And looking at other jurisdictions and identifying where Victoria can probably improve by way of regulatory and licensing frameworks for hemp cultivation and production.
Where can Victoria improve in terms of regulation and support for the industrial hemp industry?
Well, I think that's sort of what we need to identify. Around 2 or 3 years ago, there was a task force into hemp, but unfortunately that task force did an interim report and then the task force was dissolved. So this is picking up on that important work of that task force and really exploring where there is gaps in either the legislation or if there's an over-regulation. Some of the reports I'm getting from those in the industry is that there's a lot of red tape. It's also about looking at opportunities where there could be investment.
Marijuana and hemp are both varieties of cannabis plant, and Ms. Payne says this can cause sticking points when it comes to state and federal regulation, though she says regulations can and should be changed in Victoria.
We know in other jurisdictions, in other states, the hemp industry is really flourishing. The limitations around how the plant is scheduled may need to be reviewed. Hemp is still classified under the Drugs and Poisons Act. When it comes to building, there is so much more we can explore with hemp and building material. It's fire resistant. So there is a real appetite there for exploring different applications with hemp and building, particularly in regional areas and where there's fire-prone areas.
About 4 years ago, Darren Christie set up a hemp processing facility in Neerim South, in the hills of West Gippsland. He went on hiatus during COVID, but says he's gearing back up again and looking to expand. But Mr. Christie says the industry needs support from both government and farmers to scale up production, and Gippsland is the perfect place to start.
The government should have been supporting this 5 to 10 years ago. The potential to grow and value add into our economy is absolutely mind-blowing. Industrial hemp has the potential to actually take a lot of pressure off the timber industry in the future and value add into the economy.
The government has just announced the end of native logging in Victoria. Do you think that hemp has the potential to fill that gap, particularly in East Gippsland?
Absolutely. Absolutely it does, because at the end of the day, industrial hemp is another chip and pulp industry, exactly the same as our timber industry out there. We can make up building products, we can value add to the chains. We have companies in Victoria, and I'm just talking 2 here, that need 35,000 tonne a month of just chip. You know, a fibre company out there wants to replace their fibre. They're looking at 45,000 tonne a month of the fibre. Our industry is exactly the same as the timber industry. It's a chip and pulp. We can grow industrial hemp on a biomass scale in 100 days. 5,000 hectares, you know, there's $100 million into the Gippsland communities, you know, and farming. It's a no-brainer. They've got to open your eyes, mate, and have a really deep, hard look now, because otherwise we're 10 years behind.
Do you know farmers in the Gippsland region who have shown interest in growing industrial hemp?
Yes. We've had a lot of interest from farmers. The problem is the processing. We need investment in the processing. I've always wanted Gippsland to be the major hub for Victoria to start this movement. You know, we've got train lines, transport, we've got everything that can come out of Gippsland through Melbourne and all over Australia. At the end of the day, investment into the processing is the key. The farmers will come in.
That's Darren Christie, Chair of the Australian Hemp Building Industry, and that debate in Victoria's Parliament about industrial hemp is expected to begin this afternoon.